Hey, what's going on everyone? Today I got an awesome video for you. You guys can see I got all these bikes lined out here, and this is a video that I've been wanting to make for a very long time. I just haven't had the time to make videos like this. Today's video is going to be on what should be your deciding factor when buying an e-bike. Maybe you're trying to buy your first e-bike. Well, these are going to be some good tips for you and what you should be looking for. Maybe you don't even realize these are some of the things you should be looking for when you're considering buying one of these. Because let's face it, guys, e-bikes are expensive and you're going to have a lot of money tied up in it, and it's a big decision for a lot of people when they're buying their first e-bike. I know when I bought my first Lectric, I watched every video I possibly could on YouTube, still debated it. My wife told me I didn't need it, and I was like, yes, I do. And never regretted it since. So let's get into it, guys. And if any of my videos helped you guys in making your decision on what bike is right for you, please consider using the affiliate links that are in most of my videos. And I'll put a massive list of links down in this video of all the e-bikes that I've reviewed. And you guys can go out and check out through those links the current pricing on any of these bikes, and I'd really appreciate you using that link because it does help support this channel, and that's what helps me creating these videos for all you guys. So let's get into it. And these aren't going to be in any specific order of what I think is more important or less important, but definitely some good considerations. So the first thing that I think is really important is going to be the size of the e-bike and how you're going to ride it or where you're going to ride it. So if you're going to ride it around your house and you're never going to transport it anywhere, then it really doesn't matter which one of these bikes you buy. Any of them would be a great decision for that. But if you want to take it in your vehicle, maybe take it to different campgrounds if you're going camping, or just into a different town to ride around and things like that. Maybe you need to take it to a bike shop for maintenance. Some of those things are going to be a problem with some of these bigger, heavier bikes. And that should really be your first consideration, because if the bike's too big for you to take somewhere and ride and you're not going to ride it, then honestly you shouldn't even buy it, because if you're not going to ride it, why buy it? So something like the Heybike Explorer back there is a very, very big bike and going to be nice riding it around town and around your city. But if you need to put that thing in the back of your vehicle, it's going to be huge. Unless you have a truck, it's going to be really big on a bike rack. You can get it on a bike rack if it was a fat tire bike rack. But that leads me to my next point. Do you already have a bike rack, or do you need to buy a new one? Because if you need to buy a bike rack, they're a few $100s as well. And I have a few reviews on my channel here for some different ones that you guys can check out. And the one that I use, the overdrive rack. But you're going to need a fat tire rack for a lot of these bikes, for the fat tire ones that are very popular these days. You really can't hang them on a hanging rack. You need a platform rack, and those are a lot of money. So consider that. You know, do you want to just throw it in back of your vehicle and be able to transport it? A folding option's a good choice, like the Lectric, the Heybikes. Another Lectric there, DYU bike, is very small and portable, and you're going to be able to put it in back of your vehicle. You know, I love riding these bigger bikes. Magicycle is one of my favorites. Rusher is one of my favorites for comfort, but sometimes when we're going camping, we're taking my wife's CRV, and it's a very small car. I don't want to put the bikes on a bike rack and have them out in the elements if it rains. Now, I do use a bike cover and a bungee net to bungee it on there to keep everything secure whenever I'm transporting them on the bike rack. But sometimes I just want to throw them in the car and just go minimalistic, not take a bunch of stuff, but still have bikes to ride around the campground. And the last time we went, my choice was the Lectric Light and the DYU, because even though that DYU is really small, it's going to be good for a lot of people because of the size and the weight of it. My son flies around on it, I fly around on it. Now, my wife rode it at the campground the one day, and she said this wasn't the bike for her. It was too small for her, but I love riding around on that thing at 5'7.5" to 5'8", somewhere around there, and 165 pounds. That thing's plenty for me. But the last time I rode this one around at the campground, the Lectric Light, because like I said, it's lightweight, it's small, has smaller tires, and easier to transport. Honestly, I think that should be your number one factor. Is the bike going to be big enough or small enough for you, for your needs? Everybody has different needs, and that's probably the number one question on my channel is, what is your favorite and which bike should I buy? And that's always the hardest question to answer. Okay, so the second most important thing I think would be the ease of use and low maintenance. So in general, all these bikes have motors, have batteries, but they have a lot of similar parts to a regular bicycle. A lot of them have derailleurs and a shifter that you can shift through gears. Mostly like a regular bicycle, you're going to have chain maintenance, you're going to have maintenance on your derailleur every now and then, have to adjust it. But other than that, other than the battery keeping good maintenance on your battery, watching how you store it. You know, if you're not gonna ride it for a long time, keep it stored at like 60%. Don't charge it up all the way and store it. Don't store it while it's dead. Don't ride it when it's super cold. Well, when the battery's super cold, you know, don't leave it out overnight when it's freezing and then jump on it the next day and take off. Keep your battery inside where it's heated. You know, just certain things like that. You are gonna have some things you should do with your battery, but other than that, it's pretty much typical maintenance like a regular bicycle. But you could have some problems with your electronics, with your motor here and there. With that being said, I've only really had one issue with one motor, and they sent me a new motor. I installed it, but haven't had any issues with any of my bikes, really, with any of the electronics or anything. So that's gonna lead me into the next thing, which is very important, I think, for some people. Do you want a US-based company for US-based customer support where you can call and talk to them on the phone? If you do, then something like the Euphree is going to be a good decision. They're a US-based company based out of Texas. Lectric Ebikes is a good company based out of Arizona. You can call, talk to them on the phone, any maintenance issues you may have. Electric Bike Company bikes are beautiful bikes, and they are actually one of the only bikes built in the USA. They actually build the bikes custom specific for you. They are more money, but it's probably one of the most beautiful bikes that I have. Or you can go with a lot of the other companies that are in China, and that's not to say that they have bad customer service, but a lot of times you're going to be emailing videos of your problems, and you're going to have to wait a little bit extra long for parts to arrive. Now, that's not saying they're not going to send you the parts. That's just saying that it may take a little bit longer for you to receive those parts, and you really can't call and talk to them on the phone. Some of them maybe you can, but to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with customer service on a lot of these bikes because I've never had an issue with most of them. Now trust me, if I have any issues, they're definitely going to be shown in a video. You've seen my videos, I show it all. So now, even with the US based companies, other than Electric Bike Company that I know of, I mean, most of these bikes are still made in China, shipped here in a container, and then shipped to you. The only difference is some of them have US based customer support where you can call and talk to them on the phone, and others, their support is in China, where you'll be emailing, sending videos, and then taking a little bit longer sometimes to receive your parts. So that may be a big deciding factor for most. And for me, it's not that big of a deal either way because I'm pretty mechanically inclined and I can work on any bikes. I could change parts out easily. As long as I can get the part, I'm okay with it either way. And a lot of times you could save money and get a better value for your money if you go with a company that has, you know, overseas support. So I would definitely say that's the second big consideration, or maybe that's the third by now. The next one is going to be speed, power, range. That's going to be a big factor too. You know, do you want something that's a class 3 e-bike that you can unlock and ride off-road like the Lectric? You can unlock this to go 28 miles an hour, or do you want something that only goes 20 miles an hour like the Lectric Light, or something like the DYU that's not super fast, but it'll still get you around, or even the Heybikes. Most Heybikes are only 20 miles per hour, except for the Heybike Explorer, which is a big bike, but it does go 28 miles an hour, I believe it was. The Heybike Ranger was around 24 to 25 miles an hour, but most of the other Heybikes are capped at 20 miles an hour. So a lot of people are going to want that speed, but if I'm riding off-road through the country, then I want to go fast, to be honest. But if I'm in a campground, speed limit last one we went to was 10 miles an hour, so you didn't need that anyway. You didn't need to go 28 miles an hour. You couldn't even go 20 miles an hour. We wanted to stay at the speed limit, just cruised around the campground at 10 miles an hour, so that's something to keep in mind. And some older riders might not like going fast. So I know my wife doesn't like going fast. She doesn't need a class 3 e-bike. She's perfectly fine with a 20 mile an hour bike. If you're on a bike trail, obey the laws. Don't go fast. Don't make anybody mad. You don't want them putting any more laws on certain bike trails and things like that. So just be really responsible when you're riding. Know where you can go that speed. Check your local laws. Make sure, because most places don't even allow class 3 e-bikes unless you're off-road. So something to keep in mind, do you need a class 2 or a class 3 e-bike? I would say the next factor is, do you want your bicycle or your e-bike to feel like you're riding a regular bicycle? If that's the case, then you're going to want something with a torque sensor, something like the MiBike. Now, they were talking about updating this to a cadence sensor, or maybe that's a downgrade, but it's something you might want to check on. But this MiBike that I reviewed has a torque sensor, which means the more pressure you put on the pedals, the more output you're going to get out of the motor, and it's going to feel more like a regular bike. Most e-bike companies use what's called a cadence sensor because they're cheaper, and as soon as you start turning the pedals, it senses the movement and engages the motor, usually full speed of whatever pedal assist level you're in. And to be honest, a lot of people like that because they don't want to put work into an e-bike. They just want to start pedaling and then take off. Me personally, I like a torque sensor where you put more effort in, you get more effort out, only when it has a throttle that you can hit the throttle at any time to go, because when you hit hills, you're going to want that throttle because you're not going to want to put a lot of effort in sometimes, and that will help you with that. Another thing to think about is, do you need a lot of power? Do you need a mid-drive bike where it's going to take you up steeper hills, or are you okay with a 250 watt bike, a 500 watt bike? Do you want something like a 300 watt bike like the Lectric Light? Now this thing packs a big punch for 300 watt, and they all perform a little bit differently, and that's why I love doing these videos, because I love showing exactly how these bikes perform, because some 750 watt motors do not perform like others, some 500 watt motors do not perform like others. A lot of it has to do with what size the controller is and also how the bike is programmed, because even though a bike has a 25 amp controller in it, they might have that limit set at 25 in the settings, and you would never even know. I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I set it to the max that it's allowed, you know, that you can set it to in the settings when I do my reviews. It shows it being set to 25, but sometimes it might be limited to 22. So that's why I love doing these real world tests. And not all motors are equal. Some are more tuned for torque and power. Some are more tuned for speed. So my videos usually show you what speed they are at, what power they have. If you guys seen my hill test video, I'm actually working on another one where I'm going to have probably over 20 bikes in that one. And it's going to be a pretty good video in my opinion to show what speed they go uphill. So on a mid-drive, the power actually comes through the cranks. The motor is mounted down here in the bottom bracket, and it puts the power through the chain. So every time you shift gears, it actually pauses the motor to allow you to shift through the gears. With a hub motor, it's in the rear wheel on most of these bikes. Actually, on all of these bikes, these are all hub drive motors. But what most people like about hub drives is when you hit that throttle, it takes off. You don't have to worry about what gear you're in. It's going to give you the same power no matter what gear you're in. And it's not going to pause when you shift through those gears. It's instantaneous torque. But however, mid-drives, you know, you have different torque because it uses those gears. So you get more torque out of a mid-drive. But there is more maintenance. It's going to put more wear and tear on your chain. You're going to have a little bit more adjustments over time and things like that. So I would say that the hub motor has less learning curve to it, and it's just easier. You don't have to think about what gear you're in. You can just hop on it and go. And this may be my last final thought for you guys, but the next thing is going to be weight. So this kind of goes back into the first tip that I gave you guys about whether or not you're going to transport it on a bike rack, but size and weight is going to matter. So most bike racks are rated for right around 60 pounds for the fat tire racks. You can get them higher than that, but unless you're going to just haul one bike, you can get a motorcycle carrier for that from like Harbor Freight or something pretty cheap and haul one bike. But if you're planning on hauling two bikes on a bike rack, size and weight is going to matter, because a bike like this, like the me bike, a moped style bike, pretty awesome to ride. I have a couple other e-bikes from Gforce. I love the Gforce ZM bike, a motorcycle looking style bike. Guys, check out that video. It's a very cool looking bike, but they're heavy. They're in the 90-some pound range, and no bike rack's going to be able to hold these bikes unless you're getting into like a motorcycle style rack. And that's going to be a problem for a lot of people. If you have a truck, you could put it in back of the truck to haul it, and it might feel a little heavy for some people to ride. Even though they're step-throughs. Personally, I don't have a problem riding them. My wife can ride any of these bikes. I've ridden motorcycles and bicycles my whole life. Something like the Magicycle here, the Magicycle Ocelot, this is another one of my favorites. This thing is super fast, super powerful. I mean, just overall beautiful bike, and it comes in at weighing right around 60 pounds if you take the battery and the seat out, which is still able to be put in a bike rack that's rated for 60 pounds per bike, which I absolutely love. And this is really one of my favorites because it's just a smaller bike. I'm a smaller guy. I like the smaller bikes, and it just has the torque and the power of the 52 volt system here, which is, I mean, just, it's an amazing bike in my opinion. This is a little bit more expensive bike because it is the premium model with the larger 20 amp hour battery and the hydraulic brakes. But is that something you guys are gonna need? Do you need the range? Do you need a 10 amp hour battery where you're gonna get, in my area, around 18 miles, or do you want a 20 amp hour battery? In my opinion, on a bike trail, the 10.4 amp hour battery, I did a video of that on the original Lectric, and I got like 38 miles. Go check out that video. It's an awesome video as well. That was on level ground, pedal assist 2, just cruising along around 12 miles an hour or so, but I got 38 miles out of a 10.4 amp hour battery. So you guys may not need a 20 amp hour battery if you live somewhere like in Florida that doesn't have any hills, or somewhere level. But if you're somewhere around like here and there's a bunch of hills, then you might need that bigger battery. So that's just something to keep in mind. Is the bike too heavy for a bike rack? Do you need the size of the battery for your range, things like that? Or do you want something super comfortable? You might want to check out the Cyrusher Komodo. Now this bike is almost the size of the Magicycle Ocelot, but this thing has dual suspension, and in my opinion is super, super cushy. I mean, this bike is just so smooth to ride. This is actually my wife's favorite, and it's one of mine as well, just because of the comfort. Now, I did put a suspension seat post in the Magicycle Ocelot, which makes that one pretty comfortable as well. And I do love how you can put a basket on the front on the Ocelot. You can't do that on this, so there's another factor. Do you need to carry things around? Do you need something with a front basket and a rear rack? Or can you get along with just a rear rack, and something like the Cyrusher might be okay for you? Overall, guys, I mean, there's my opinion. You know, step over, step through. Do you want easy accessibility, or does it not matter to you? I mean, all pretty good points in my opinion, and I'm sure these aren't the only factors that you should factor in making your decision. I know price is probably going to be your #1 factor, but my last final tip is get what you can afford that you can ride. If you can't afford a $2,000 bike like the Magicycle Ocelot, you know, you might want to look at the Lectric, because that has been one of the most popular selling bikes in the United States in the past few years. The Heybike has been another very popular seller on my channel. Not as powerful as the Lectric, but they have bigger batteries, are super comfortable, comes with a suspension seat and things like that. I mean, just so many different options now here, guys, and that's what I love about doing these videos, showing you guys the differences of each and every one of these bikes, how they perform, because I love the competition between all these companies. It's only going to make them get better. It's only going to make the bikes get cheaper and make them have to put more work into taking market share over with their next model, trying to give you more performance for value. And that's what I love to show in my videos. So thanks for watching, everyone. I know I missed some things, I'm sure. I've been thinking about making this video for a long time, but I think there's a few things in there that just people should know before purchasing their first e-bike. I'll put a huge list down below of all the affiliate links that you guys need for any of these bikes that I talked about and any of the ones that I reviewed. So go to their websites, check out the specs, features, details, watch the review videos on all of the bikes that I've done. And hopefully that helps you make your decision, because that's the goal of this channel, to help you guys and inform you of how these e-bikes perform. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you around on the next one. Please leave a comment down below. It really helps my channel out. See you around.